Okay guys, well today I've got a awesome one, and I got to tell you I love doing these projects, the build it projects. This was a Yamaha, I think Kodiak 400cc with electric full drive or electrically engaged front diff. My brother had this quad. He said, oh, it's a bit smoky, I don't want it. Do you want it? I said, no worries, let's make this happen. Picked up the Barbie car from, I don't know, Marketplace or something like that for free and started butchering. As you can see, I stripped the Yamaha right back. I was trying to figure out how to make these two very different vehicles work together. And you know what, I'm pretty happy with the outcome. Keep in mind, this isn't a lifetime project. This is just something I was doing for fun after hours. So a lot of the welds are crap and the design isn't absolutely mint. And the stitching on the seats is pretty sad. But overall, for what I've done, I'm really happy with it. So I picked it up from my brother's. I got it home, put it in the shed, stripped it down and checked out what I had to do to make this quad run first, because I didn't know if or how well it ran. After finding that the quad did in fact run, just not very well, it was extremely smoky, I thought, all right, I can work with this, and I got to it. And after stripping it back and pulling the carby off, interestingly, putting it all back together, it stopped smoking. I mean, it's not perfect, but it is worlds above where it was. So I think it was more of maybe a carby clean or something like that it really needed. Now there were three main things I wanted to do. One was obviously put the Barbie car on top. Two was I really wanted to lower that seat down so you're in a more go-kart position. And three, I wanted a full-blown steering wheel. Neither one of these were much more easy than the other, because with the Barbie car, well, you can just tell the original join here, right there, used to join to right there. And well, just getting these levels, it seems easy, but it's not always the case. It takes quite a bit of time. Having a look at the seat, well, dropping that down, that is an interesting one as well. The original seat would have been something like up here, so at least 30, maybe 40 centimeters higher than this new seat. But the problem is we had only a little bit of clearance underneath to play with. If I stick it under here, this axle here would have originally had the muffler above it and then the seat above that. But we didn't have that much clearance anymore, so I ended up moving it so just the exhaust was over the axle, and now the muffler sticks right out the back like one of those massive cannons that you see on one of those cool little souped up Chinese cars. Now for a really difficult one, that was the steering wheel. It actually came together really easily, I'll admit, but it's an interesting one to look at. So we've got the full-on steering wheel here that goes down the steering shaft, and then it had to join into all the steering connections for down here. I ended up going to U-Pull-It, picking out a steering wheel that I thought would work and just starting to put it together. I had to make these extra frames here. It's hard to see, I know, because they're black, and an extra frame down there somewhere to lift this, because the original handlebars would have been about here. So I cut the old handlebars steering column or steering shaft as low as I could just before the bushing, and then I brought it back on a uni joint coming back this way, and then it goes into the steering wheel. Another thing that I didn't think of, or probably the hardest thing in truth, was the, because being an automatic, this automatic shifter, it runs on a linkage. It runs on a linkage. I don't know if you can see that just on my finger here, but that linkage, as I pull forward and back, moves. And the problem is that linkage is normally straight, and as you move, it just goes like that. But I had to move the entire thing up. It used to be down in here, and it's up here. So now that the linkage is like that on almost a 45 degree, it just doesn't line up, because although the top's moving one click back, the bottom is actually getting pushed down and back. So look, it's just not perfect. It works, I can find each gear, but it's just not as user-friendly as it was. Now the accelerator I was pretty proud of. I actually pulled this from a car in U-Pull-It. This was a full electronic accelerator, and I ended up running the cable through. If you have a look in there, you can see it getting pulled just in there. How cool is that? The foot brake, however, it was a butchery, and you know, if I cared, I'd put more effort in, but here we are. The foot brake, I ended up just putting down the actual handbrake to here, because it was just the easiest way to do it, and I didn't want to reinvent the wheel because this is quite a good connection. I was going to more officially put this foot brake on here, but to do it properly, it really undermined the strength that this had, and I really just wanted to keep that handbrake as strong as it was, because I didn't want to mess around with that. The last thing I wanted was to drill through it or something to make it that the foot brake worked well with it, but then I undermine the strength of it and I snap it or something. So instead I just sort of zip tied it there, and it just works with it, but in actual fact you're pushing still on that handbrake, the original handbrake. Now of course all of the little things on the Barbie car I wanted to make as much work as possible, so we have over here the key on and off. That is the original buggy's key on and off. The power on and off, that is your kill switch, which is normally on your handlebars. Forward and reverse, unfortunately, I didn't have anything to make work. This little button here is your four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive. Ended up mounting the horn here, and then over here on the other side, I've got the electric star and the choke. The gear selector, it's in the correct position. For full drive low is all the way forward, high, neutral, reverse, and then park all the way back into the steering wheel like that. As you can see, the shock absorbers and springs have been completely reconditioned and definitely not just hit with a can of white spray paint. I ended up also cutting back this bull bar. I don't know how evident it is, I've got some clips, but this bull bar used to come out to like here, like it really came out a long way. So I ended up cutting it there, cutting the top off, and also cutting the brackets and pushing it back into the vehicle. The radiator stayed in the original position. The Barbie bull bar got a bit of an extension up here. Well, it wouldn't be a Barbie Jeep if the bonnet didn't open. Check this out. This is where the battery should be. I've just got a jump starter in there at the moment. All of the electronics ended up getting jammed in here, and that's where she will stay. One funny thing is, when I drive this, I quite often find myself looking into these mirrors as though they're useful, but as you can see, they're absolutely horse shit. I ended up custom making these seat covers. It's the first time I had ever attempted such a thing. It didn't turn out great, but I did learn a lot on the way. And of course, I also had to replace a fuel tank because the old fuel tank sat up there underneath you pretty well. So I ended up getting a fuel tank. This is just a 5-litre jerry can, which you can throw onto the back of your car. And I ended up changing the breather into the outlet hose that goes down to the motor. And then I drilled a hole and tapped in here so that it has a new breather coming right out the top. All right, well, that's it for the Barbie car. Let me know if there's something you want to see me do in this. I don't know, I tried to do some ringies. I'll take it full driving. You tell me. If you want to buy it, let me know. I might put it up on Marketplace and see what interest I get. But I really just build these things for a bit of fun. I like doing stuff that's different. This was an awesome little project. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.